Good afternoon and welcome to the Integrated Smart and Crestron webinar, focusing on increased interactive collaboration for more effective and productive meetings by enabling access to remote content from any source, anywhere. So during the webinar, all participants will be on mute, so please use your chatbot function at the bottom of your screens to ask questions, which will be answered at the end of the webinar. We also recommend you use the side-by-side mode, which can be accessed by the View Options tab at the top of your page. I am your host, Olivia, and today, Fraser, our Smart Global Business Sales Consultant, will begin the webinar, exploring the new normal and sentiments of what a modern meeting room must have. Kevin, the Technical Product Manager at Crestron, will then outline the newest innovations at Crestron, presenting the delivery of flawless video, audio, and interactive content directly to your SmartBoard Pro interactive display, followed by how Smart integrates with Crestron to enable remote content from any source, anywhere, on a Crestron DM NVX network. So Fraser, over to you, please.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Olivia. I'm excited to be with you all today on this conference call, on this webinar topic of Crestron and Smart Better in the marketplace for unlocking digital collaboration. And it's really about perfect timing of what this really means in the marketplace. If you think about the change that COVID's really done, it perhaps is the most in my history of a 20-year career in audiovisual and meeting room spaces and unified communications. This might be the largest change that we really have seen since the advent of COVID-19 and the true, not just rise from work from home, but really exclusively working from home for a great deal of time. We actually conducted a survey around this, and more on this later. We'll actually share some results of that survey. But 83% of organizations believe that we're now in an era of a new normal, that no longer does the workplace really mean the place you go to work only. It's really now about how the office space can unlock how you can collaborate. And what that really means is it's really getting organizations to think about their planning for return to work in a change on workplace environment for where collaboration can happen. Really, that's where Smart lives and Crestron live, is where groups intersect with collaboration or information. And so that's really what our topic is here today. You're hearing all about this category. So if you think about the modern workplace in this depiction of new spaces, now as we're rechanging to more of a say an open space, and perhaps that's flexible around social distancing, it's really changing the kind of open zone areas on how we can really get more. Because in that same survey, we heard that 2/3 of organizations are looking to outfit a whole host of more spaces with fewer seats available to them for how they can really accommodate the challenges of increasing overall space. So rather than just your traditional, four walls conference room areas, it's really about expanding into the cafe areas, project work groups, environments of courtyards or plaza areas where even wine bars, we're seeing audiovisual being deployed in those environments at an unprecedented rate, which we believe really coincides with what our two value propositions really offer together. So what you're here to hear from Kevin and I today is that Crestron really brings the capability of digital media, which allows us to really truly deliver on the promise of a consistent approach for all your displays, all of your audiovisual area for an any source, anywhere proposition with the newest part of digital media line with the NVX. And I'm happy to report Kevin will help us walk us through that, and he's the product owner of that category. And when you add Smart to that experience, it really lets you work with any content and make that not just a passive viewing experience, but instead a native interactive experience where you have a multi-touch environment and also can do full write-up capabilities and so forth. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Kevin to talk about this newly formed alliance in which Smart participates in. Go ahead, Kevin.
Thanks, Fraser. I appreciate it, and thanks for having me today. Look, we're really excited about this IOAV Alliance, and of course our partnership with Smart. This alliance allows both Crestron and Smart to work together to bring this native experience to smart displays. So some of the benefits of the alliance are Smart supplies displays to Crestron for extensive testing in our QE environment. This way we really can guarantee proper operation in the field with Smart and the D80 endpoint to our end users. We also supply equipment to Smart for testing and verification, and I believe, Fraser, you have a setup in your own office, right?
I do. I actually have a live demo, a quick teaser on that. We'll be able to see this thing live in a moment.
Excellent, excellent. So another benefit is, of course, access to Smart engineers and Smart having access to our engineers as Crestron. So we can really work together to make sure that this is truly a native experience, as far as getting audio and video, as well as USB back from the Smart display panels.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, and just to add on to this ability around the Crestron IOAV Alliance, you truly get all those benefits of what the DM NVX environment offers as an endpoint. Really, if you think about designing a digital media experience, you can truly make all your video sources that you want available be over at your own common network, which means that any display, provided it's a part of the Display Partner Alliance, you get this native experience, which allows you to have a clean installation with essentially one network plug into your display. It allows for a very simplified deployment because you don't have to really configure at the endpoint. It's really all configured through the cloud, through the infrastructure and the provisioning rules that you want to allow for. So it's a truly at-scale model. And perhaps the most interesting, all smartboards only have so many video ins enabled. And some of those sources may be very common, like a digital signage experience, or maybe you wanted to have a broadcast for television or your own closed circuit experience that you're delivering out there. What Kevin's products allow for is really making that over the network to all displays in a meaningful way that you really just need the decoder to do that. And that's actually what Smart really participates in. Where Kevin and I are the most excited, though, is that we are changing not only being a native endpoint for audio and video with that 4x4x4 4K content that you get with flawless delivery, but it's really about now enabling the USB control on top of that. So you get true multi-touch and USB control through the smartboard to these sources. And that's actually what was really kind of the game changer on what we really can do together around this. Back to you, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you. And USB is definitely one of those things that allows us to bring that native experience back, right? So here's the D80. This is the actual product that we're talking about that slides into the Smart display to make it a native NVX endpoint. This thing was built for smartboards. It really was, because there's a couple features: no latency video and no latency USB. These are really important, especially when you're talking about an interactive product. You certainly don't want your mouse pointer to be at the bottom of the screen when you need it to be at the top. Wherever you're pressing on the screen, you need that reaction time instant. And the NVX product, along with the Smart products, allows that to happen. This device natively plugs into Smart MX 6000 and 7000 series panels. And really one of the coolest things to me is that there's no wiring to happen here other than the LAN port. The OPS connector handles everything from audio, video, control, and USB traffic. So one connector that once you slide the device into the display, this thing will start to power up and operate. Our NVX endpoint supports natively 4K 60, 444 with HDCP 2.2, although we can take signals from 480 on up to 4K 60, so it really can handle pretty much any source that you throw at this thing. Display control, we have that also through the OPS connector, which includes RS-232 as well as CEC. So as long as the displays support those features, we support that right to the OPS connector and the Smart displays. A new feature we added recently is AES-67 audio. This is a streaming audio format, and the reason that I wanted to bring that up was as much as we have the ability to have multiple sources come in here, we also now have the ability to extract this audio out of the unit and send it to a DSP or other rooms. So there's a lot more functionality than just video. We actually have, of course, the USB and the audio track now as well. XIO Cloud, which allows monitoring and deployment. I think you have a slide on XIO Cloud as well, Fraser.
I do.
So we'll talk a little bit about XIO Cloud and some of the power of XIO Cloud and how that helps the Smart and the NVX to be a native combination. It also natively supports the touch and ink markup from the Smart panels. Smart displays. One thing we did a lot of testing on, especially when we had this in the lab, was of course testing the USB functionality on smart displays. That interaction has to be perfect, and we wanted to make sure it was right. And I have to say, it works very, very well on the smart displays.
Yeah, and I wanted to top up on that. What I'm really impressed with what Crestron's doing is they're not only doing great video sync and audio sync strategies to make sure that you're not having frame loss or jitter potential risks around your network. Of course, you're dependent on the network you run upon, but at the end of the day, the Crestron solution does not add incremental load here, which is very important when it comes to inking, because inking end users really start perceiving challenges in the milliseconds. So about 300 milliseconds is kind of that incremental load when you draw that you start making mistakes on. But because the experience of here not only can do that, but you're going to get that full multi-touch, richer experience overall. So if we really think about what this really means and what we're really talking about, it really lets you take any of the material you want to bring to an environment, let you be able to deliver that in a very meaningful way on your existing network. So very kind of powerful experience there, and that is that big anniversary of not only just the video signal, but it's really about the back channel back to USB, which is kind of the game changer on what we're really able to do with interactive content.
Yeah, one thing I want to mention actually on that slide is that we use a standard gigabit network. There are other products out there that use the 10 gig network. We use a gigabit network. So this really fits into a lot of existing infrastructure that's already out there. You don't have to go changing switches out for the most part, because you likely have gigabit network infrastructure in there. So I think that's
in fact, many of the folks that you're probably on the call today are already on your path of digital media at some point. The only requisite here is being on the NVX experience we're talking about here. So that's what we're really talking about. It's the that network that will let you do that. So if you're uncertain which one you may have, think about vintage of the NVX is the nomenclature you're looking for your equipment, and you'll be able to take advantage of these capabilities. So what this really means is it really lets us go beyond the computer of what we're actually interfacing with our content, and really kind of open up a whole host of different experiences, whether that's digital signage, whether that is a web-based content, whether that's maybe a booking process or a booking area that you want to offer through this area, because remember, reservable now is such a big deal. Imagine walking into the office and every one of your digital signage displays can be put into a mode that lets you interface and actually book your seat assignment for the day, and maybe book a meeting room. How powerful would that be in regards to a return to work strategy that you can do that you frankly already have? Secondly, it really answers us going more beyond our traditional spaces. And if you're really contemplating, I think the numbers are showing about 70% of organizations right now are at least have a plan or in midst of their full plan on return to work strategy that includes the ability to revamp your office space to be more collaborative and be able to respond to COVID-19. And then lastly, Smart adds to that party of really changing it from a beyond viewing experience to really add that interaction around collaboration with touch, write, markup, save, and send capabilities. Also, of course, Smart comes with a contactless strategy as well. So you have built-in proximity sensors that will either wake up on motion or wake up on pickup of pen, depending on how you want to configure that zone you're looking to enable. Okay, so that's kind of that timing. So SMART, I kind of hinted at this, that we actually conducted a very large primary research survey. And at the end of this, if you want, in the follow-up email you'll receive, there'll actually be some information about that survey in detail. But we want to give a little preview on that teaser area. And really what we're hearing back from organizations that are planning around that is that the new office place, 3/4 of organizations are saying that they really want the ability to collaborate in person is the reason that would drive an end user back into the office. So it's the kind of the major reason what knowledge workers want to do. And literally working from home or working from home alone, web conferencing is absolutely necessary, but insufficient to address all modalities of work. And what we're hearing the latent gap is how we work together real time is the biggest challenges. And that's exactly where SMART can add that experience to move it further. And coupled with Crestron's ability to be able to let you bring that strategy at scale, SMART will help you unlock that material by enabling that multi-touch through that D80, let you do universal markup and freeze and telestrate. I'm going to actually demonstrate for you that you can actually mark up on any content, any video signal. We have ability of doing what's called freeze and telestrate, very similar to what you see on your local sports broadcast or what you see on your local news. We have a freeze and telestrate and save methodology on even material that's not, let's say, USB controllable. So it's a very powerful way to actually work on content. We have also a connected whiteboarding experience, which means that you can not only be able to show and others to view, but you have a way of connecting people on a whiteboard to work on material together. And so this really democratizes contribution in a way that truly unlocks problem solving. And at the end, we always include the ability to save and be able to share the results of what you've been working on. So you don't lose that lightning in a bottle. You don't lose that information. You have to write do not erase ever again, and or taking a fuzzy picture at the end of your session and pray that you can get that information shared out. So rather than talking about it, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate this for you. So you might actually be surprised, but I'm actually been on a smartboard the whole time. So I'm going to show you that. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and change my camera view. And you're seeing that this is my smartboard, and I've actually been presenting on the Crestron D80 for our presentation the whole time. So what does the Crestron D80 interface look like when it comes to a smartboard? So it looks like a video signal. It populates the area of that material. And so I've actually have my laptop connected to a network in which it's being encoded and then sent to the controller of the room for me to be able to toggle different sources if I'd like to in the room. And so this is my example table plate. This could be a wall plate. This could be programmed for a smartboard to be able to control further, but it allows you to change the signals of what you are requesting from the network back to the smartboard. So you're seeing me right now on my laptop source, which is my computer. And so when I think about that, you have the ability to be able to then control that view overall. So I'm going to show you that. So I'm going to go ahead and slide advance here. So this is me doing USB control on the room for me to be able to control the room. So this is me showing the easy management experience of what's happening on the screen. So SMART has rich IoT sensors that are contextual aware. And all of these contextual awareness capabilities, we publish these richer experiences like our proximity sensors that can then natively show through the XIO cloud method, that full dashboard of all your systems on how well they're performing. And so you get this rich remote monitoring approach where you can start doing some very dynamic rule sets on having a true smart building, as it were, in terms of how you can manage your system. And you get system health experiences around it. Even more so, you have the ability to run rich reporting around those experiences. I'll pause there and let Kevin kind of top up here because we're not giving its due on how large of an ecosystem we're really talking about here.
Yeah, as far as XIO Cloud goes, I mean, you know, it has a lot of functionality and a lot of features. It's a cloud-based configuration management platform that we actually host on the Azure cloud. This allows a lot of things from NVX perspective. For example, fast setup and mass deployment for NVX endpoints, which is really nice for our dealer base to not actually have to go touch each device, but actually configure it ahead of time. It also allows remote troubleshooting and monitoring, and this is the thing that makes it a native experience, especially with the smart smart displays, is that you can see a connected display, you can see if it's online, you can see what input it's on, for example, and really get some metadata back from that as far as you know, serviceability and what's happening there. You can catch issues before they happen. If somebody unplugs a display, it can show up in XIO Cloud, and we can actually get somebody to fix it before it becomes an issue for the, you know, CEO who's doing this presentation, for example. But in addition to that, there's things like metadata for room usage or display usage. What content are you sending to the display, or how often is the room used? And you can really create correct collaborative workspaces based on that type of metadata. You know, what are they using the rooms for, and how many of those types of rooms do you need? So it's a very powerful tool and offers a lot of you know, expansion beyond just loading firmware or setting it up. You get this reporting as well.
I love where you're going there, Kevin. So to me, what's the best way to inform your return to work policy by not having a way of monitoring how your systems are being used? So I love the modality of the research. What I mean by modality is, imagine by each display, you can kind of get a sense of, when it's an interactive one, when the source channels change. So I change from maybe a computer or digital signage experience to something that we're reviewing for the moment. You can really learn about how often your spaces are being used in that method in a really, really rich way that it allows for a kiosk experience. Speaking of kiosk experience, let's move on to the next experience that I have here on the area to show you how DM NVX works with Smart. I'm going to go ahead and now change to my second source that I have programmed into my experience. And so you're seeing now that I have a dynamic digital signage experience that's coming through here that's giving me no latency on both 4K video, but also you're probably not hearing the audio because we're on a conference call, but I'm hearing the audio of this video play through. So let's go a little bit further. I mentioned that we have a very interesting feature set on something that can't, even on something that can't be USB controlled, Smart could still make that interactive. Let me demonstrate that for you. So every smart board on the convenience panel has the ability to freeze frame. So I'm going to go ahead and freeze frame right there. And freeze framing lets you pause the show of what's happening on the screen real time, but allows you then to do a rich markup directly on the screen, and it allows you to be able to review content on that area. So whether that's maybe a video camera feed, a broadcast feed, maybe it's a source in which you're reviewing a large operational control area of a weather pattern coming in, you could truly review that material and be able to save that material for future review on what you're working on. Once that process is done, you'll notice you'll be able to continue on along the way on continue working through it. So that's called Freeze and Telestrate, and is native to Smart's integration here with the Crestron DM NVX. So you truly have a way of having universal markup across all applications. I'm going to go ahead and switch back now to my laptop. So when I switch back to my laptop, I really can now control all the different kind of views of what I'm kind of trying to do overall on this experience. So I'm going to go ahead and slide advance here. Here we go. So based on what we talked about here today, if you like what you're hearing, if you're thinking about what is your return to work strategy, what is the best practice on how to be able to design for an open zone area, how do I, based on my footprint, look at more spaces with fewer areas, and then what's the right way of moving towards bookable? You're working with the right partners here. Crestron has a whole approach around booking processes that could really unlock the same capability around it. And Smart also can assist you in regards to how we interface that with our products, in which also has great rich calendar integration for bookability overall for how that works and how you can really then unlock open zones. So we also have the ability to offer you a remote demonstration around this for live one-on-one. So feel free to go to our website at smarttech.com and hit the book a demo button or contact your sales representative in regards to taking the next step. We'll be sending a follow-up email with those contact informations of your country for enabling you for be able to proceed down this path and really get the support you need and the questions you fully need answered. So with that, that kind of concludes our presentation overall. Let's open to questions. Olivia, any questions from the interweb?
Yes, we've received a few. Thank you, Fraser. So the first is, which web conferencing platform does Crestron and Smart work best on?
You know, that's a great question, Olivia, and so I'll answer in two ways, and then I'll kind of jump in and get Kevin to kind of jump in. So adjacent to Crestron has a native experience with its UC lineup that's beyond the digital media experience, but specifically with digital media. We'll talk about hardware first. So the Smart board has that built-in USB architecture into it. So not only can we pass along the touch or the USB mouse control of that experience, but we also pass along speaker, microphone, and web camera support through that native endpoint. Provided that computer has the correct USB bus to be able to handle the amount of milliamps that could be sent along the way. So I believe it's USB 2 is that level support. And Kevin, there's a recent announcement that just came out around that support, which is pretty game-changing for COVID-19. Do you want to jump in there?
I mean, USB USB 2.0 is what we support for that for the NVX endpoints. You know, as far as you know, we do have a full UC lineup of products, desktop as well as you know, rack mount devices that can handle various platforms, whether it's Zoom or Teams and such.
So let's think about that from a hardware perspective. So if you think about hardware USB 2.0 support, that's all web cameras and speaker microphones that are really following USB 2. So how do you know whether you have a 2 or a 3? You're going to see on your dongle either a blue denotation on your connection, or it might be a USB-C connection. So if it's USB-C or USB 3, it likely is using a higher level of bandwidth that's not yet supported in that architecture. But every speaker microphone in UVC land supports 2.0 or below. So you're going to be fine with any speaker microphone. And then I would say any of the Logitech side of the experiences that are from Meetup or Rally and so forth terminate in 2.0, if you will. Same with Poly. I believe that even the most recent Poly Studio line is a 2.0 product. So you can plug those in and use it. Your question is also referring to the web conferencing platform. And you heard us answer a very wide answer on hardware. Well, the reason why is because we actually have wide breadth support in hardware for any web conferencing platform you want to meet upon. So it lets you really meet across a whole bunch of areas. We specifically at both Smart and Crestron test with multiple web conferencing platforms to ensure that you work correctly. Now I'm going to transition and talk a little bit about Smart for a second. So just Smart itself, you might be thinking, well, what do we work well on ourselves? And so we really have 9 out-of-the-box web conferencing platforms that we work really well with. And really it's the winners around COVID-19 is where we've concentrated our biggest energy around, which is Zoom, Microsoft Teams, GoToMeeting, as well as Google Hangouts Meet. But we still test with many others, but those are the 4 most popularized ones that are really seen. But you might find that there might be regional ones in your territory you might be wondering about. So feel free to post those in the Q&A area, and we'll try and address those specifically. Kevin, do you have a platform-specific answer to the question?
Like I said, some of our UC devices definitely support Zoom and Teams as far as that goes. As far as the NVX line, if you have a PC that runs anything, you can get that signal into the NVX lineup, to be honest with you, and send it over the wire. So there's no limitation other than I would say there's no limitation as far as the video goes. You know, we can send the video and the USB back to a PC from a smart device or whatever.
Absolutely. And if you're following the industry of where that's gone, no matter how much your organization might try to standardize on one platform, 84% of organizations use 2 or more platforms on a daily basis. So from a meeting room perspective or an open zone perspective, you can't always control, especially front office, who you're meeting with or external meetings. So that's why Smart and Crestron have such a wide approach to be comprehensive in what you can really accomplish. In fact, in that same report, 20% of organizations use 5 or more. So it's pretty massive on what you perhaps need to do to be able to support multiple. But frankly, we work across a great deal of them. Thanks, Olivia.
Great, thank you. Does the Crestron OPS module work with all Smart Pro series touchscreens?
Yeah, it's a great question. So Olivia, so that's part of this alpha area that and the joint development efforts that we did. So even before we launched our product, Smart worked with the product management team within Crestron's headquarter team to do that joint interoperability testing on all series. So we believe this is a very important area to be able to ensure. And because Smart leads the category around OPS, we were really able to ensure the maximum level of coverage. So any of our newest panels, so anything you could buy today available, so the MX, the 6000, and the 7000 have support for the DM NVX module that gives you that native slide in.
Yeah, and just a note on that, we do still have some of those panels in our office, and they are constantly being tested. So even when we release new firmware from the Crestron side, we continue to test and make sure that our latest firmware works with those panels. So we're constantly testing. Yep.
And likewise, when there's a step change from a smart board, that initiates our testing on our side as well. So when Kevin releases firmware, there's kind of a new wave area for it. So it's not just about today's experience and things start drifting away. It's about ensuring it interlock together for maximum performance in market.
Exactly. Yep.
Great. So maybe one for Kevin here. So how would it work if you were, say, a Smart Platinum partner, but not a Crestron partner? So, for example, how to purchase, etc.
I haven't run into that. I don't know if you do something from the Smart side. I would assume a dealer would get involved from the Crestron side, but have you run into that, Fraser?
Yeah, so I think for let's say if you have a preferred partner you like to purchase from, or you're very interested in this capability, but you do not have the expertise of Crestron. My recommendation is partner up with a dealer in your territory that you can work with to be able to expand this capability. So today we do see, depending on the territory, about a 60% to 75% overlap in regards to common dealers, but that still leaves a great deal of folks that may not have a dancing partner together. And if you want to, feel free to contact if you're a Crestron dealer, to contact your Crestron dealer. We have what's called a field map where we've aligned our sales representatives or our channel representatives to work with each other to help you find a dance partner to work with to expand this further.
Yeah, and we certainly have our sales reps listed on our website as well if you're looking for a Crestron dealer specifically. So, yeah.
Excellent. So Kevin, does the D80 replace something else like an onboard computer?
Yeah, absolutely, it could. There's certainly the OPS slots will handle. It's an Intel-based or Intel-designed slot, so certainly they designed it for PCs. But that PC could now be located in a rack rather than specific to the OPS slot, which we found is actually less expensive as well. But and allows any content to get to that display. You're not stuck to just that PC. So yeah, it absolutely can replace that PC that goes into the OPS slot with a different thin client or whatever on the other end that you send in through a transmitter. And from there, of course, you can select various sources, as Fraser showed, not just the PC, but you could get a cable box or, make the display do something else completely.
Yeah, and I got a quick apologies on showing, like, when you have the promise of infinite sources, only seen 2. Well, it's partly because of my working from home. I wish I had more sources to bring for you, but you get a sense of how you can really expand that story. You really are not limited based on the source pick list to what you can really accomplish. So it really allows you to really dream very largely on what your experience might be. So what's the experience of your displays when not in use? Should it bring up the digital signage experience? And then when not, what are the right interactive areas to bring in? Perhaps it's a whiteboarding ad hoc experience on our IQ channel, or it might be a booking process, or maybe there's one computer that lets you use a web browser to book your reservable hotspot and maybe meeting room spaces that you want to have for the day or the moment. So you can really kind of dream in Technicolor here for what you could really reimagine these experiences. And I should also say that this is not, DM is not a new concept. This is in a way, the DMOPS does replace more larger encoding boxes. So the D80, I think you saw in Kevin's slide, really is everything it must be, but nothing it's not, so nothing extra. And so that kind of makes sure that you have a cost at scale to deploy. So it kind of simplifies the deployment of it, if you will. And then to talk about smart, it really lets you envision a range of smart boards in your spaces, and we believe that really opens up that open zone area. So the cafes, the project workflow groups, the places where you can make more spaces available to your knowledge workers who are coming into the office that are looking to real-time collaborate.
Okay, and lastly, the last question, we have a customer considering a smart and Crestron solution for their conference room. However, they'd like to ask some more technical performance questions after the webinar regarding the UC Crestron solution. So who can they contact for that?
They could contact, I think they could contact me actually, and I'll get them to the right person. I think that might be the best bet.
Excellent. Okay, that's all the questions we received.
Yeah, that'd be the easiest way, and then we can get you to the right people depending on what the questions are. And if it's NVX related, I can answer those straight off. And if it's UC, I can get you to the right people for UC for sure. Good. Great.
Okay, Fraser, that's all the questions.
Well, thank you all for joining us today on the webinar, and you'll be receiving a follow-up message around this in regards to kind of a deeper look here and some resources you can consider for deploying this at scale in your organizations. Again, I cannot emphasize enough, if you're in the midst of that planning process of what your return to work strategy is, please give us a ring or be able to respond back to that message, because I think you'll really see that there are some very cost-effective ways of how you can really add a great deal of capabilities for really allowing for a return to work strategy to go smoothly and also more compelling, so you can really drive up that engagement back up in your organization. Okay, with that, thank you for your time, and have a great rest of the day.